Here's what's next. I replaced the hood on my Corvette with an aftermarket hood. So I have the original hood here, and it's in pretty tough shape, but it is good enough for garage art. So that's what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to find a way that I can display this on the wall so that it looks pretty neat. So we're going to get right into it right now. You're watching On the Mark with Mark. There are a few things on this hood that I'm going to need for my new hood. So these have got to come off. These aren't necessary at all for my garage art project. That could have just about been reused. I've got both of the latching mechanisms and the flapper door here removed from this hood. Those were the parts I need for my new hood, so I got those recovered. Now I need to come up with a method of hanging this on the wall. Plus I want to finish the edge of this door a little bit better than just the way it looks. What mostly needs attention is the sides. The top will be high enough that you really won't see over it to see what's going on up here. It's just, I don't know, a little dirty. And it's the same with the bottom, because this hood is, I don't know, probably 5.5 feet long. When it's on the wall, I mean, it's going to come down and it's going to be up. But the sides will be very visible. So here's the issue. What I figure I'll do is I'm going to put a nice piece of wood on the edge of this. And so it'll be sitting in a little ways right here. So there'll still be a lip there, but you won't be able to see in behind it, and you won't see this black part. But the issue is, if I put a straight edge on here, this hood is not straight. You can see right here. This is not straight. The hood, this is where it meets the fender. You know how Corvette's got that nice, a big, I don't know what you call that part of the fender, but they come up quite a ways. Well, this is the hood meeting that. So I'm going to need to scribe my piece of wood. So one side is going to be up here, you know, right where this touches, and where it's going to touch the wall up here. Okay, so that's going to be the full thickness is right here. But then the bottom edge, well, as it sits here, is going to be scribed to meet the contour of the hood. And not only does it, you know, do this little dip here, it's tilted like this. So I think what I'll do when I run that through the bandsaw is I'll just make the entire cut beveled like that, so it fits nice and tight right here. But that's okay if it's beveled in this area too. It'll just be tight on the side that we see. And I think, well, I don't know how far up I'll go. I don't want to go up here so it's hanging off by itself. I'll probably stop somewhere around here. So after it starts to turn this way, that will be fine. So I need a piece of wood at least 56 inches long. I have decided on this nice piece of cherry veneer plywood. The edges won't show at all, so it'll be just fine. And this is how I've gotten my measurements. I've taken the widest part of the gap right here, which happened to be 1 3/8, and then I just marked it with my pencil on the other side how deep it goes in, and then I added those two numbers together. That's the thickest part, and I'm going to cut this to that thickness, or width, which happens to be 2 3/8, and then we'll scribe the line on it, and we'll cut it on the bandsaw and try to match this profile up real close. Right there. I think I got a reasonable fit on here. It's nice and tight along here. A little bit of a gap here. You know, when I go to screw that on, maybe I just clamp it. Looks like, yeah, it'll flex enough. That's gonna look really tight. It's gonna be nice. So the idea is, I don't want this to look like somebody just took it off of their car and slapped it up on the wall. I want it to look like some care was taken and the hood was prepared to be displayed in this way. So that's all these little sides are doing. Now I need to do the other side. Here's how the fit is looking, and this, finish along this edge doesn't look great, but really we're looking at it from the wall's perspective. So when it gets mounted on the wall, you'll be seeing mostly this side. So that little bit of an edge there that's got some black paint, some yellow paint on it, that'll be facing the wall. All you'll be seeing is this part of the wood right here, instead of this black painted fiberglass area there. So that should give a decent finish look to it. And speaking of finishes, I'm going to put some tung oil on this. I don't want to overdo it, but I do want to have a little bit of some kind of a finish on it. That will do. I put a halfway decent finish on that. This is a cherry veneer plywood, so that's what will get seen on the edges here. Now I'm going to drill some holes in here big enough for me to get my screwdriver through, and then I'm going to drill some smaller holes in the second layer, and I'm going to go through all of this. So the smaller holes is where the screws are going to be, and then I'll use the larger hole to run my screwdriver in to screw these right to the sides. Now I've got to guide this screw through that pilot hole and then screw it in by hand. Okay, I made the hole big enough for the screwdriver to fit through, but not the head of the screw. Bigger drill bit. And I'm doing kind of a funny thing that a guy on YouTube was doing. And to drill into fiberglass, actually running the drill bit backwards, and it seems to make a cleaner hole. So that's what's going on here. Okay, second try. How hard could it be? There it is. Nice. This really isn't going too bad. First you gotta find a screw like this one that wants to stay on the screwdriver. Not like this one. Oh sure, now it wants to stay on. Well, before it fell off. All right, anyway, a good screw that wants to work with me. And then you poke it in here and then bottom it out, 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 bottom it out. You can feel I'm just hitting fiberglass. I'm trying to hit that hole, that second hole. There it is. There, it just dropped in. Okay, now I can screw it in, and that one's done. There's one last part that I've got to scavenge off of this hood. It's this little screen right here. Not that I think I can use this screen on my new hood. I just want it as an example of what there was so that I can make something similar to it, or I can match up the mounting points, the spacings on the mounting points. Anyway, it's just it's a good reference to have. It comes through the hood in a couple places, right here and here. So it's just in with these three, I call them acorn nuts. This is really a cheap nut. It's not a little casting, it's actually stamped. There it is. Okay, so it's got to come up. Oh, just like that. It slides right out. There it is. Kind of wonky. It's actually, I mean, besides being all curvy, I mean, that could be straightened out with some heat and a couple of boards, but there's nothing broken on this piece. It kind of surprises me. I'll set that aside. I've got these two pieces glued together now. This 2x material, it's a 2x4 on the back here, is just to give the 1/2-inch plywood some strength to it so that this thing doesn't try sagging off of the wall. But it's mainly getting attached. I added these pocket holes with a Craig pocket hole cutter, so I'll be able to screw in from the inside. This will go right into the boards I put on the sides of the hood. And then I'll also run maybe 1 or 2 screws in from the top right into the hood. But I need to put the angle, the bevel cut on it for the actual cleat. So I got my saw set up here and I'm gonna cut that in. There it is. I made that at a 35-degree angle, but I think for a French cleat, anything between 30 and 45 would work. I just chose 45 because I didn't want to, I'm sorry, 35 because I didn't want to have such a big cut. Let's see how it fits on the hood. Looks like a nice fit. I've got a couple of marks here where I've measured down from the top corner of the hood on both sides so that I've got this thing so that the top of the hood will be parallel, so that hopefully it hangs on the wall nice and straight. Now I just need to put a couple of shims underneath it here so that I can get this out nice and flush. Oh, you know what? If it wasn't flush, it would just sit a little tighter to the wall. I'm just going to make sure that it's parallel with the front, and that will be fine. Okay, I've got plenty of glue in there, and I did decide to put a shim in here just to hold it good and parallel, because I have a feeling when these screws go in, it's going to try to pull it down. All right, let's do the other side. Looks like I got plenty of glue on, that's for sure. All right, I've got the glue in there. And I missed my mark by just a little bit on the other side. I'm a little high, so I'm gonna make this side just a little bit high also, so that hopefully it's still parallel. I really don't think it's enough that it would ever show, but just in case. Okay, so my French cleat right now is screwed and glued onto my boards that are screwed onto the side of the hood. But I'm going to put one screw that actually screws the French cleat directly onto the hood, and it only needs to get through this 1/2-inch plywood and then into the fiberglass. And I'm going to try that without drilling a hole. So this is going to save a drill bit. This bit is done. I just need to make the part of the French cleat that actually bolts onto the wall. Almost done. I had to trim the 2x4 a little bit to step around here, and I put a little bit of a radius on it right there so it could fit in there. But this is very rigid, and it's got the cleat in the back, and here is the cleat that's gonna mount on the wall. So this is gonna go like that. That's what's gonna hold it up, and I'll have this much leeway. Right now, I cut it 34.5 inches long so that I could get across 3 of the studs, which would be ideal. That would be the best I could really hold it to the wall, but that might end up in a bad place on the wall. So if it ends up that I have to move it so that it's only touching 2, then I'll shorten the thing up and redo it. Okay, we're ready to put this in place, so let's go. Gotcha. Oh, it's big. There we go.
My shoes keep coming off.
Boy, it sure got big. Okay, it's gonna need some cleanup. Something like that. Okay, boy, it don't look level. Yes, she's level. Good thing I'm not going by my eye. There it is. All right. There we go. Oh my God, it's massive. Well, I actually waxed this thing here while it's on the wall, which is kind of a different thing to do with a hood. Look at this. See, this is there, right behind me. This is my office. I work from home on Mondays and Fridays, and we do Teams meetings on a regular basis. So now the way I've got my camera set up, this hood is framed exactly behind me, like you see it right there. So I just think that's really cool. So this turned out really great. This thing ended up weighing 45 pounds with that bit of wood that I added on the sides, and then to make that French cleat to get it to hang on the wall in a safe way, which I think it is. And it still provided for a little bit of adjustment from side to side. I wanted to try to get on 3 studs here, but that put it just way too close to my file cabinet there, and you saw how I was swinging that door open. That's got to be able to clear. So I took out, I only have it on 2 studs, and that's fine. It'll work just fine. So I had to shorten the thing up a little bit. So this turned out really great. I've been planning that different hood, you know, my aftermarket hood, for a long time. And this hood is in such terrible shape that, you know, you just can't honestly sell the thing to somebody, you know, with a clear conscience. You know, I don't know what kind of a Corvette you would put it on, which doesn't speak a lot for the condition of my Corvette when I got it. I don't know if I told you or not, but this corner here apparently had been completely snapped off and has been reattached. I mean, you know, it just built up with some fiberglass resin. And when they went to trim it, they didn't trim it exactly straight, so it doesn't look great. And there's a spot right here, you probably can't see it, that the air conditioning compressor rubbed on the underside and rubbed a hole pretty much all the way through the hood right here. This corner down here has got a big crack in it, and up here, when the hood was getting dropped, to latch it, it actually put a crack in it up there. And there was supposed to be a piece of metal reinforcement on that top edge up there, which would be at the base of the windshield. That I never saw. It wasn't there when I bought the car. Some of the underside of the frame where it's supposed to seal against the air cleaner, they also cut that area out to try to get that compressor to clear the hood. That really must have been a mess when they were working on that. The guy that I bought it from lived in Florida for a while, so I really don't blame him for having the aftermarket air put in the car. Here's the car hood on the wall. Thanks for watching. One thing, this hood I'll probably own longer than the car. Sooner or later, the car is going to go. But this is a great souvenir. Who knows, maybe my grandson will want to have it on his dormitory wall, if they still have dorms by that time. We'll see. Anyway, it's a pretty neat thing. It's kind of big, but it doesn't really take up a lot of space on a wall. Thanks for watching. Good.